Which ruling applies to someone with flatulence issues during prayer? Which rulings apply to someone with flatulence issues during the prayer? So, what is referred to as flatulence is basically where the person has very little control over passing wind. So, some people suffer from, Nas'alullah al-afiyah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us protection from all forms of illness. But some people, unfortunately, are tested with certain illnesses wherein they don't have control over certain bodily functions. So for some, it may be a form of incontinence where urine would constantly drip from the private parts. For others, it may be that they use what you call these things, bags. I'm not sure what the proper medical term is for it, but they use bags, and the excreta or the defecation does not take place in the usual way, but instead it passes through, involuntarily into this bag. I don't know exactly how it works. Other people still are tested with other forms of constant leaking of some sort or the other. Nas'alullah al-afiyah wa nas'alullah an yashfiya jami'a marda al-muslimin ajma'in ya rabb al-alamin. We ask Allah to protect us and to grant relief and complete shifa to all of the ill among the Muslim men and the Muslim women. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So what do people with these particular tests do? How should they treat their condition? So in relation to this question, we can broadly explain that this is referred to as chronic annulment of ritual ablution. Chronic annulment of ritual ablution means that the person is perpetually in a state of not being with wudu. So they are in a state of hadath, but perpetually. So this can be of various types. Another very common example is a lady who experiences istihada. So she experiences what has sometimes been translated as chronic vaginal bleeding, and I know there are much better terms for that. So basically, when her haid lasts for much longer than it usually does, or than it should, or than is recognized by sacred law, then she too would take this particular ruling. So such a person would, let me get all the details right for you. If you have flatulence that only occurs during the prayer due to your anxiety or something of the sort, then you do fall under the category of da'imul hadath, a person with this perpetual state of non-wudu. And a person with such a condition, for example, because of the constant release of wind, is not obliged to try praying several times without releasing his wind. So such a person shouldn't think that they have to hold in their wind or try to keep it in some way, artificial way or the like. No. Instead, what they would do is they have to wait until the waqt enters. So they can't prepare for the waqt before the waqt had entered. So if, for example, we are referring to the waqt of Fajr, and again, as an example, if the waqt of Fajr enters at 5:30 a.m., then he or she cannot prepare for the waqt of Fajr at 5 a.m., right? Perhaps they're going to prepare at 5 a.m. to pray Salatul Tahajjud, and that's fine. But for each fard salah, for each obligatory prayer, he or she would have to perform a fresh ablution, even if they didn't, in a different sense, break their ablution that they had before. So they are only allowed to pray one fard salah per ablution. So they would pray the waqt of Fajr, or rather prepare for the waqt of Fajr only at 5:30. So once 5:30 hits and they hear the adhan, mathalan, if they can hear the adhan, then they proceed to prepare for Fajr's waqt by cleaning themselves. And in the case of someone who has najasa that is constantly dripping or something of the like, then they would apply a dressing. And a dressing in a modern sense may be what we refer to in South Africa as a nappy, and in other places in the world they refer to it as a diaper. It may be something of that sort. It may be some sort of plugging device or some sort of plugging application. Anything that would cause the najasa to be soaked in and not soil their place of prayer. If there is no najasa, as in the case with flatulence, then no dressing is required. Thereafter, the person would immediately proceed to take their wudu. So they perform their ablution in a normal sense. and proceed immediately thereafter to pray the fard salah. Yes, the sunnahs that come before it, that is fine, and perhaps waiting for jama'ah, waiting for the imam to commence with the jama'ah prayer in the masjid, that is also fine. But any other delays, for example, first going to the shop, or first finishing their food, or first taking a nap, okay, that's a bad example, but anything that they do to delay other than the things that I mentioned, those would cause the preparation to be nullified and they have to re-prepare for that prayer. On the other hand, if they proceed to pray immediately, then they may pray that fard salah, they may pray the sunnahs that accompany that salah, both the qabliyah, the sunnahs that take place before that fard salah, as well as the ba'diyah, the sunnahs that take place after that fard salah, and any other sunnahs that they wish. But for the next waqt, so the waqt of dhuhr, they would have to redo what was just mentioned. And then again for asr, and then again for maghrib, and then again for isha. So even though isha, they may have been able to retain the ablution from every other perspective, until isha, they would still need to take a fresh ablution for salatul isha until the chronic situation has ended, or they are able to deal with it from a medical perspective in a different manner. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. There is a slight caveat that one should intend, instead of intending the wudu, as you normally would, or intending the ghusl, for example. No, not the ghusl, just the wudu. Instead of intending the usual intention for wudu, just intend to make the prayer permissible. This is a slight caveat upon which there's some discussion, but we don't wish to overcomplicate matters here. And that is all that such a person would need to do. There's no need to repeat the prayers if something does slip out. There's no need to pay any form of expiation. They may pray in this manner for as long as they need to, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.